The galaxy pulsed with a steady hum of commerce and conquest, each star system orbiting beneath the cold gaze of the Galactic Empire. From the crystalline oceans of Antari Prime to the storm-racked mountains of Dredok, trillions of beings bowed to the will of the Emperor, a figure both myth and menace, whose commands echoed across light years with absolute authority. For centuries, Earth had existed on the fringes of galactic politics, tolerated more than respected. Its people were considered industrious, unpredictable, and irritatingly resilient. But nothing in human history had prepared them for what was to come. The broadcast began without warning. Every screen, every data stream, every neural link was hijacked at once. Lights dimmed across the cosmos as the Imperial seal flared crimson, followed by a sterile chamber of bone-white steel. There were rows, endless, orderly rows, of human captives wrist-bound, eyes vacant, standing atop towering platforms. 70,000, the Empire later confirmed. Civilians, colonists, miners, diplomats, unarmed, unidentified, unwarned. A voice, deep and resonant, filled the chamber and the minds of all who watched. It was the Emperor himself, his visage hidden behind a porcelain mask etched with gold. Earth has defied the order of the stars. They sow dissent, resist integration, poison lesser minds with rebellion. This is the price of defiance. And then the killing began. The platforms dropped in synchronized lines. Screams filled the chamber, reverberating through every corner of space. Children clutched their parents. Soldiers on outposts froze, fists clenched. On Earth, millions watched in real time as their own were slaughtered like cattle. The feed lingered, faces contorted in agony, bodies lifeless in sterile silence. Some tried to look away, but the Empire had blocked all escape. The galaxy was forced to bear witness. Somewhere in a modest apartment complex outside Chicago, Major Sarah Arden crushed a glass in her bare hand. Blood trickled from her palm, unnoticed. She'd served in the Interstellar Marines for 16 years, fought on asteroid fronts and rebel moons, but nothing in her career had prepared her for this. Among the rows of the executed, she had recognized a face. Her sister, Lena, a humanitarian aid worker stationed on the colony of Hestara 4. Not a soldier, not even a politician. Just kind, soft-spoken Lena, whose last message had been a joke about how bad the local coffee was. Halfway across the globe, in a war room buried beneath the Earth Federation capital in Geneva, President Elijah Ward sat in silence. The top brass of Earth's military elite flanked him, all expressions grim and unreadable. The footage replayed in complete silence. When it ended, Ward stood, adjusted his suit with mechanical precision, and turned to the assembled generals. "We are no longer fringe," he said. "They've made us central." No one responded. There was no need. In orbit around Mars, the supercarrier Vindicator rumbled as if in anticipation. Inside, Colonel Marcus Trent stood before a memorial wall, now rapidly updating with names of the dead. He tapped one, Private Hannah Sato, 19 years old, a former cadet who had dropped out to start a family on New Eden. His voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. "Prep the unit." "Sir," his aide replied, eyes wide. "We're not waiting for committee hearings or diplomatic cables. They just murdered 70,000 of our people. Live. We either strike now or we die on our knees." Back on Earth, the morning began. Candles burned in every city. Names scrolled endlessly across sky screens. Streets filled with chants that rose from pain into fury. The hashtag never forgive spread faster than any virus ever had. But beneath the mourning was something deeper, more primal. A tremor, the kind that precedes earthquakes. The Empire believed it had silenced the problem. In truth, it had awakened a predator. In hidden bunkers and orbital command posts, war councils formed. Human scientists began retrofitting old tech with lethal precision. Black sites long buried beneath Antarctica were reactivated. The Interstellar Marine Corps, once a symbol of peacekeeping, was being reshaped into something far more lethal. The term on everyone's lips, whispered like a prayer, was retaliation. And yet, amid the global roar for justice, some voices remained quiet. In a temple deep in the Atacama Desert, a boy lit incense for his father, an engineer on one of the mining rigs taken by the Empire. His mother stood beside him, face wet with tears. "He wouldn't want vengeance," she whispered. "I don't care," the boy replied, staring into the flame. They made it personal. By the third day, Earth's skies were filled with silent streaks of mobilization. Troop carriers rose like ghosts in the dark. Military satellites went active. A quiet calm settled, the kind that comes before the sound barrier breaks. But it wasn't enough to ease the grief, nor to answer the question echoing through every broken heart. Why? The Emperor never explained. Perhaps he never needed to. What mattered now was what came next. And Earth, scarred, furious, and unified, was about to answer. The launch bay thrummed with a low-frequency growl, a mechanical heartbeat, syncing with the soldiers, moving in perfect rhythm. The deck of the Vindicator was alive with motion. Technicians running diagnostics, loaders securing exosuits, weapon specialists checking energy coils. Amid the controlled chaos, Colonel Marcus Trent walked like a storm in human form. Tall, broad-shouldered, face carved from granite. His presence carried the weight of a man who had seen too many wars and survived them all. His eyes, steel gray and unwavering, scanned every face, every detail. This mission was unlike any before. A younger officer jogged to meet him, saluting sharply. "Colonel, briefing in 5. Trent nodded. "They ready?" "They will be." He entered the tactical chamber with brisk purpose. Holographic projections of star systems hovered midair, shifting and spinning as Earth's top military minds plotted vengeance in real time. But all eyes turned as Trent stepped to the center. Beside him stood Major Sarah Arden, now reassigned from Earth Command. Her hand was still bandaged from the glass she crushed, but the pain sharpened her resolve. She spoke little these days, choosing instead to focus on action. She had volunteered before the call came. No one questioned it. Trent opened the briefing with no preamble. "We're not here to make a point. We're here to make history." He gestured to the holographic map. Zorkent, Imperial Core World, seat of the broadcast tower, the place where they executed 70,000 of our own. "We're going hard and fast." Murmurs spread across the room. Zorkent wasn't just a fortress. It was a symbol, a bastion believed untouchable even by the most radical fringe groups. To hit it would be to declare open war with the Empire in its very heart. Trent let the silence stretch before continuing. "This isn't a full-scale invasion. This is a decapitation strike. We hit key infrastructure. The broadcast relay, power grid, orbital defense command, and the military tribunal headquarters. We break their message. We remind the galaxy that humanity does not bleed quietly." Sarah stepped forward, voice low and firm. "The Empire's arrogance is their weakness. They believe Earth is a fractured world. They believe our grief paralyzes us. We're going to prove them wrong." A Marine near the back raised a hand. "Are we going solo, or are other planetary forces supporting?" "Solo," Trent answered. "Other species are watching, waiting. They want to see if Earth has claws. We're going to give them a show they'll never forget." The meeting dispersed with an energy electric in its intensity. Soldiers rushed back to their units, adrenaline sharpening their focus. In the armory, polished suits of powered armor stood like silent guardians, each one tailored for speed, strength, and brutality. Marines climbed into them with ritualistic familiarity. Pulse rifles clicked into place. Neural links synced with targeting systems. A hum filled the air like the prelude to a storm. In the locker room, Arden sat alone, her helmet resting on her knees. Across from her, Sergeant Luis Vega, the unit's explosives expert, tightened the straps on his gear with a grunt. "You good, Major?" She looked up slowly. "Ask me when we get back." He smiled faintly. "If we get back." She didn't smile. "We will." Trent entered, sealing the door behind him. Last chance to back out. No one moved. He nodded once. "I didn't think so." The final hours before launch passed in a strange mixture of routine and intensity. Last messages were recorded and encrypted. Personal items were stowed in lockers that might never be reopened. A corporal wept silently over a photograph of his newborn son. A tech officer kissed a symbol of Earth etched into her wrist. When the hour came, they stood on the deployment deck, like statues cast in steel. Trent addressed them one final time. "I won't give you a speech. You've seen the footage. You know what they did. This isn't politics. This isn't strategy. This is justice." He paused, letting the silence settle. "We're going to Zorkent, not just to destroy, but to remind them who we are. They think humanity is soft. They think we cower. But they don't know us. Not yet." Behind him, the launch sequence began. Hatches opened. The fleet roared to life. Arden closed her helmet. The heads-up display flickered with vital signs, targeting overlays and squad markers. Her pulse was steady. No fear, just focus. For Lena, for every name carved into the steel wall of the fallen. Trent's voice came through the comms, low and calm. "Let's show them Earth remembers." The ships lifted in perfect formation, cutting silently through the Martian night. Behind them, Earth watched, holding its breath. Ahead lay Zorkent. Ahead lay Retribution. The atmosphere of Zorkent shimmered like liquid glass, a haze of toxic ionized gases cloaking its skyline in perpetual dusk. Beneath the glow, the Imperial capital sprawled in all directions. Gleaming spires of obsidian and chrome pierced the clouds, while skylanes shimmered with ceaseless traffic. At the heart stood the broadcast tower, a needle-like structure thrust defiantly into the stars. It had been the stage of the Empire's execution. Now it was the bullseye. The U.S. Marines entered the system cloaked in absolute silence. The Vindicator remained in shadow, masked by a prototype stealth array developed in Earth's Black Labs. From its underbelly, for insertion pods detached, each carrying 12 soldiers, weapons hot, minds focused. As they pierced the lower orbit, Trent's voice came through the comms, a razor through tension. Phase 1. Insertion. Quiet. Clean. We go loud on my mark. Inside her pod, Sarah Arden checked her rifle one final time. Each movement was muscle memory, but her mind was elsewhere. Flashes of Lena's face, the sound of her laughter, the way she said goodbye without knowing it was the last time. She locked the memory away and steadied her breathing. There was no room for ghosts here. The pods struck the surface with surgical precision, embedding themselves beneath the industrial district that fed the capital's power grid. Mag seals hissed as the hatches blew, and the Marines spilled into shadows like wraiths. Vega led the advance, his sensors sweeping ahead, detecting guard patrols and surveillance drones. 2 hostiles. North corridor. Non-cybernetic. "Shall I?" "Drop them," Trent ordered. A muffled burst of plasma fire answered, and the hallway fell silent once more. They moved with relentless purpose, slicing through the Empire's underbelly. Explosives were set with practice speed. Junction boxes overloaded. Reactor conduits rigged for meltdown. The entire grid would go dark in minutes. Above them, the city was still asleep in its arrogance. Trent held up a fist. "Comms tower next." Vega breach. A blast door exploded inward with controlled charge, revealing a command center of glass and light. Technicians barely had time to rise before they were subdued. Arden took control of the console, hands flying across keys. Imperial systems were foreign, but not inscrutable. She routed control to the squad's uplink, then inserted the Earth-coded override. "We own their signal," she said, eyes flickering with grim satisfaction. Outside, the first blackout surged through the capital. Lights died in waves. Traffic skidded into collisions. Skylanes blinked out like vanishing stars. Panic hadn't begun yet, but it would. Trent signaled the second team. Strike Team Echo commenced Phase 2. Across the city, near the base of the broadcast tower, the second squad detonated their charge. The explosion ripped through the air with thunderous finality, bringing down a support structure in a cascade of fire. It was the first loud act of vengeance, and the beginning of chaos. Alarms screamed through the capital. Drones scrambled. Imperial soldiers poured from barracks in disorganized fury. But the darkness was theirs now. The Marines moved unseen, using cloaking fields and terrain to sow confusion. Every target struck was deliberate. Communication hubs, armories, drone relays. One by one, the Empire's control systems collapsed under the surgical onslaught. Arden's squad advanced on the broadcast tower through a subterranean passage originally designed for maintenance bots. Inside, the path reeked of ozone and coolant. Sweat dripped down her spine beneath the armor, but her grip never wavered. She paused at the final hatch, listening to the faint hum of machinery beyond. "Ready?" Trent asked behind her. She nodded. "Let's end their message." The hatch hissed open. Inside, a vast chamber glowed blue with holographic feeds and command interfaces. Dozens of Empire officers turned in confusion, then terror. Before any of them could react, the Marines surged forward. Gunfire lit the room in bursts of red and white. Bodies fell. Systems crashed. And at the tower's central console, Arden inserted a drive. A new broadcast lit up the galaxy. The Emperor's face vanished, replaced by Colonel Marcus Trent, bloodied, breathing heavy, armor scorched. Behind him, the ruins of Command Center flickered with fire. "This is Earth," he said, voice raw but resolute. "We saw your message. This is ours." He stepped aside, revealing the fallen flag of the Empire, its sigil burning behind him. "For every life you took, we answer in kind. You called us weak. You called us forgettable. Remember us now." The feed cut to black. All across the galaxy, the transmission burned itself into history. In the tower's silence, the last Imperial officer slumped to ground, coughing blood. He looked up at Arden with disbelief. "You're just humans." She stared down at him. "No, with a consequence." She pulled the trigger. Outside, the streets of Zorkent boiled with panic. Imperial forces scrambled, but coordination was impossible. Earth's strike had been too swift, too precise. What should have taken days had unfolded in hours. The Marines began withdrawal, leaving behind a city in flames and a symbol shattered beyond repair. In orbit, the Vindicator opened its arms once more. As the last pods re-entered, Arden sat back against the cold wall of the transport, lungs heaving. Trent was across from her, silent, watching the smoke of the tower rise through the viewports. "No casualties," Vega reported. "Not one." Trent didn't smile. "Good. Let them count their own." The transport engines roared as they left the atmosphere. Zorkent shrank behind them, burning in silence. But the message, Earth's message, was just beginning to spread. The flames of Zorkent cast long shadows across the stars, and with them spread a silence more potent than noise. Throughout the galaxy, allied and neutral systems alike paused in stunned awe. Never before had the Empire suffered such a precise humiliation. 70,000 human lives had been stolen in arrogance. Earth had answered with surgical devastation, and left behind a message etched in fire and blood. On the Vindicator, the mood was somber, not celebratory. The mission had been a success by every military metric, but none among them felt victory. Only vengeance delivered. Arden sat alone in the debriefing chamber, still in full armor, helmet resting at her feet. Her eyes stared ahead, unfocused, as if watching the flames of Zorkent still dance behind her lids. Across the chamber, Colonel Trent stood with arms folded. "You did what you came to do." She didn't look at him. "I don't feel anything." He stepped closer. "You will, but not yet." Arden slowly turned her head toward him. "They're going to retaliate." "I know." She rose, retrieving her helmet, gripping it tightly. "Then we hit them again. Harder." Trent didn't argue. He saw the same fury in her that burned in his own chest. Not blind rage, but fire honed into purpose. That was what made her dangerous. That was what Earth needed now. Far above them, in the command deck, President Ward hologram flickered to life. Colonel Trent, Major Arden. The Federation Council convened immediately after the strike. The vote was unanimous. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from all treaties binding us under the Empire's jurisdiction. We are no longer subject to their sovereignty. "Understood," Trent replied. Ward's voice grew cold. "Be advised, the Empire is assembling a response fleet. Their pride has been wounded, their control questioned. Expect reprisal." "I welcome it," Arden said without hesitation. Ward hesitated, as though weighing something heavier than words. There's more. The broadcast. It reached farther than we anticipated. Several border world factions have initiated rebellions. The Empire is stretched thinner than we thought. We may not be alone in this. Trent narrowed his eyes. Then we strike while the iron is fractured. Ward nodded. Earth is prepared to support further operations. But this next phase won't be a single strike. It will be war. The transmission ended. Arden exhaled sharply, like a diver rising from the depths. She didn't fear war. She feared silence, the kind that followed injustice. But now, the silence was broken. Earth had spoken, and others had heard. In a secure chamber deep within the Imperial Palace, the Emperor sat unmoving. The masked figure stared into an array of projections. Collapsing energy grids, rioting colonies, the flickering signal of a burnt broadcast tower. All around, advisors shouted, strategists offered retaliatory frameworks, but the Emperor listened to none of them. Finally, he lifted a single hand. Silence fell like a blade. "We were not wrong to fear them," he said, voice like frost cracking underfoot. "We were wrong to underestimate their grief." A trembling aide spoke. "Shall we authorize orbital bombardment of Earth territories?" The Emperor tilted his head. "No, that's what they expect. We will not play the barbarian." He stood slowly. "We will erase them not with bombs, but with shame. We will turn their triumph into a lie. And when the galaxy no longer sees them as heroes, we will finish them." Back aboard the Vindicator, the War Council reconvened. Maps unfurled in holograms, Imperial territory flashing red across distant sectors. Names were spoken, systems on the edge of revolt. Human colonies rumored to be next in line for purging, hidden strongholds that could serve as launch sites. Trent assigned teams with brutal efficiency. We bleed them in 100 cuts. Fast, surgical, coordinated. We don't just fight battles, we break symbols. Statues, palaces, propaganda towers. Every lie they've told about strength, we shatter. Arden raised her hand. "I want to lead the strike on Grelos. That's where they're housing the children taken from New Eden." Trent nodded. "You've got it." Around them, other Marines volunteered, not for glory, but for justice. The spark lit at Zorkent had become something bigger. Not just retribution, but resistance. Earth had stopped being a backwater species. Now it was a rallying cry. As the fleet mobilized, a final moment of stillness passed between Arden and Trent. Both understood the path ahead wasn't paved with triumphs, but sacrifices. They would lose people. They would see horrors, but they would never again bow. "You think they'll come for Earth?" she asked. "Eventually," he said. "But when they do, they'll find we're not the same species they butchered." She held his gaze, then let them come. Outside the viewports, space open wide, stars blazing like 1,000 burning eyes. The Vindicator turned its bow toward the Empire's heart, its engines pulsing with the fury of a world no longer silenced. The war had begun, and this time, Earth was writing the story.